And North Korea was clearly on President Trump's mind as he spoke overnight in Alabama. He was there to campaign on behalf of incumbent Senator Luther Strange, who is facing a tough challenge from a fellow Republican. The election is just days away.
The president also spoke about the embattled Republican health care bill. This morning he's back in New Jersey, and that's where we find ABC's Stephanie Ramos. Good morning, Stephanie.
Dan and Paula, good morning. That's right. Last night, President Trump on stage in Alabama, hyping up his accomplishments, jumping from topic to topic, including health care and North Korea's leader. The president confident that Kim Jong-un was watching. And then this morning, President Trump is up and at him, tweeting about health care, posting, John McCain never had any intention of voting for this bill, which his governor loves. He campaigned on repeal and replace, let Arizona down. Overnight, the president taking the stage in Huntsville, Alabama.
I love this state, and I love the people of this state.
Rallying for embattled Senate candidate Luther Strange. Trump going after everything from North Korea, even the NFL, to health care. The president still vowing to get rid of Obamacare.
We're going to win. It's going to be gone.
This morning, the GOP health care bill is one vote away from failing, with Senator John McCain shooting it down again, saying in a statement Friday he cannot in good conscience vote for the latest Republican plan. He says a bill of this impact requires a bipartisan approach. It was just a couple of months ago when McCain walked on the Senate floor and gave a thumbs down during a vote to repeal Obamacare. The president telling the Alabama crowd he was shocked.
Totally unexpected thing. Terrible.
And Trump, again, using a nickname to call out North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, ramping up insults toward the dictator.
Rocket Man should have been handled a long time ago.
North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, says Trump is mentally deranged, senile, and old. During that hour-and-a-half speech, President Trump even urged the NFL to fire players who protest racial and social injustices during the playing of the national anthem, even suggesting that punishments for hard hits are ruining the game. And then there's Russia, the president continuing to claim that the Russian tie to him is a hoax, despite the deepening investigation that has narrowed in on Trump's closest connections. Dan, Paula.
Newsy speech overnight and a newsy morning as he continues to tweet. Stephanie, thank you.
Now to the torch-bearing white nationalists clashing with counter-protesters on the campus of the University of Virginia.
Things have turned violent, and officials are bracing for a weekend of demonstrations like this. ABC's Stephanie Ramos is right there in Charlottesville for us this morning. Good morning to you, Stephanie.
Paula and Matt, good morning. This is where that Unite the Right rally took place. Behind me, hundreds of people gathered here on the University of Virginia's campus, chanting, and some in the crowd breaking out in fight. Overnight, a dramatic scene as white nationalists carrying torches, blood and soil, blood and soil, and echoing chants flooded this major American college campus. The images calling back to segregation-era forms of intimidation. You will not replace us! Several injured and one person arrested, led away in handcuffs, as hundreds of alt-right activists demonstrating at the University of Virginia clashed with counter-protesters. Police calling it an unlawful assembly, dispersing the crowds after fights break out between the two sides. Some protesters reportedly being hit in the face with pepper spray. Many overnight condemning the event. The mayor of Charlottesville calling it racist and intolerant, writing, "Everyone has a right under the First Amendment to express their opinion peaceably. So here's mine." He said in a statement on Facebook, "I am beyond disgusted by this unsanctioned and despicable display of visual intimidation on a college campus." What we saw here last night was meant to tee up today's event, a rally to prevent the removal of a Confederate statue. The governor says the National Guard will be on standby just in case things get out of hand. Paula, Matt, back over to you.
Thanks very much, Stephanie.
But right now, we begin with that chaos on Georgia Tech's campus overnight. Protests did erupt, and 2 officers were injured as crowds demonstrated over a student who was killed by campus police. There are new questions about the incident this morning. ABC's Steve Osunsami is in Atlanta with the details. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, George. What happened at this campus police station behind me was not the work of the peaceful demonstrators who were marching in the streets last night, but people who were here who we know tell us instead what happened was the result of outsiders who came here itching to fight with campus police. The protests over a police shooting death at Georgia Tech turned violent overnight. It's not clear if the people who broke from the crowd and attacked campus police were even students here, but they torched this campus police car and wounded 2 Georgia Tech officers who had to be hospitalized.
Drop the knife. Drop it. Drop the knife, man. Come on.
Students on campus were outraged and upset after the shooting seen in this cell phone video. 21-year-old Scout Schultz, a fourth-year computer engineering major, was killed Saturday after police responded to calls that someone was outside a residence hall with a knife and a gun. Police say that Schultz was suicidal and was the one who made that call to 911. And in the cell phone video, you hear him tell police to shoot him.
No, drop the knife.
His parents say it's clear in the video their son was having a mental breakdown and say the officer who shot him overreacted.
He was having a mental health crisis, so you have to expect him to not follow orders.
There's a huge gaping hole in our family without Scout.
Scout was the head of Georgia Pride Alliance, an LGBT group on campus. In a statement overnight, the family asked that those who wish to protest Scout's death do so peacefully. Answering violence with violence is not the answer. Scout's family tells us that Scout tried to kill himself a few years ago on campus and has been on medication and in treatment since, so this is a lot more complicated, the shooting. They want officers here to have tasers and not just guns.
Boy, that
George?
seems to would have made a difference in this case. I sure believe that. Okay, Steve, thanks very much.
We want to turn now to a major new development in the London subway bombing. There was a second arrest overnight. Police say that they have taken a 21-year-old man into custody.
This comes after raids in a suburb of London as they search for clues, trying to find who planted a crude bomb that went off during Friday morning rush hour. ABC's Ian Pannell is at Scotland Yard. Ian, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Paula from Scotland Yard. This is where London's Counter-Terrorism Command is working around the clock, trying to find who was responsible for Friday's subway bombing. We have some significant developments for you, and also new details now starting to emerge about one of the key suspects. Overnight, a second arrest made in the London train bombing, an attack that left 30 people injured during morning rush hour. A 21-year-old man was taken by anti-terrorism police in West London just before midnight. In a fast-moving investigation, police earlier raided a home near London yesterday. Officers swooping into this normally peaceful neighbourhood just hours after an 18-year-old suspect was arrested. His identity yet to be revealed. Neighbours in the area evacuated for their own safety.
I was scared, to be honest. I was really scared.
Significantly, that home just 12 miles away from Parsons Green, the site of the explosion.
The threat level remains at critical. We urge the public to remain vigilant but not alarmed.
Investigators are calling the 18-year-old's arrest significant.
He was arrested on suspicion of being concerned in the commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. He's now been transferred to custody at a police station in London.
The homemade device detonated at Parsons Green contained nails and triacetone triperoxide, or TATP according to officials. It's made from hydrogen peroxide, commonly sold as hair bleach and other chemicals. This highly unstable compound has been used in terror attacks before, from Paris to Brussels, including the Manchester bombing at an Ariana Grande concert that killed 22. Well, what we're hearing now is that the 18-year-old suspect may well have already been known to the police, although that's not confirmed at this stage. That's what the media here are reporting. So the terror threat level remains at high level, and also the investigation is very, very active still. Dan, Paula.
By the way, we're celebrating the life of a civil rights activist and comedian, Dick Gregory.
Yeah, fans are paying tribute to the man who so brilliantly used humor to fight against racism and to fight for social justice. And Ron is back with more. He had some brilliant
He really did. Dick Gregory died in Washington yesterday. He once said that humor can no more find the solution to race problems than it can cure cancer. True, but Gregory's edgy brand of comedy made a lot of people, white and black at least, do some hard thinking about those problems.
Dick Gregory was a trailblazer,
one of the first black comedians to bring racially charged comedy to white audiences in the early 1960s.
I hate to see any baseball player having troubles, but that's a great sport for my people. That is the only sport in the world where a Negro can shake a stick at a white man and won't start no riot.
His first big break was an appearance on The Tonight Show in 1962. Gregory had only agreed to go on the show if he could sit down with host Jack Paar after his routine. Before then, African Americans appearing on the show would have to leave the set after performing.
When they say this show features living color, you better believe it.
One of the first black comedians with crossover appeal to white audiences, Gregory would become an outspoken activist for civil rights.
You can always laugh at problems that's right. Everyone in the whole world knows it is a wrong. So then you can make humor out of it, and matter of fact, you enlightening people.
He marched in Selma, Alabama in 1965, protested the Vietnam War, often staging hunger strikes. Later in his career, he went on to perform in TV specials, never losing his hallmark edge.
I came back in from Europe last month, CNN. Mr. Gregory, you think we'll ever catch Bin Laden? I say, we. I ain't looking for him. I'm still trying to find out who my daddy is.
This morning, reaction to Gregory's death, Whoopi Goldberg calling him a fall-on-your-face comedian, and singer John Legend, who produced a film about the man, saying Dick Gregory lived an amazing, revolutionary life. And a few years ago, Dick Gregory was asked how he wanted to be remembered. He said, quote, "I am the turtle, hard on the outside, soft on the inside, and willing to stick your neck out." He was 84 years of age and certainly willing to stick his neck out.
It's an important time to be having this conversation in America.
Absolutely. And very, very funny comic.
Absolutely.
One of the jokes that I read in the newspaper was he said that he spent 9 months at a sit-in at a lunch counter, and when it was finally integrated, they didn't have anything he wanted to eat.
Yeah. Now to a Summer X Games update, talking about the younger athletes. The greatest athletes on dirt and concrete compete for a spot on the podium. Last night, the athlete on top was the youngest ever.
Brighton Zoyner!
Oh my God!
Becomes the youngest to ever win an X Games gold medal.
13-year-old Brighton Zoyner making history overnight, winning gold in the women's skateboard park category at the X Games.
A performance for the ages.
Zoyner beating out competitors almost twice her age, just days after her birthday.
This was the best birthday in my entire life, and I will never forget this, and I cannot wait to go celebrate.
And the X Games gold medal winner is still starstruck.
I used to look up to all these girls, and now skating and competing with them is definitely something I've always dreamed about.
Brighton started skating at 8, inspired by her brother.
I always looked up to my brother, and you know, he has great taste in skateboarding. He's just helped me a lot, and I love him.
And as for her future, no plans for retirement yet.
I'm gonna be skateboarding my whole life until I can't skateboard anymore.
Oh, if I were you, I'd retire on top. Quit now. I love this kid. Her 13th birthday was Friday, and despite being an extreme athlete, she puts girly stickers on her board. She writes in her journal a different color pen every day. And she's crushing the competition.
We want to turn now to the NBA Finals and the Cleveland Cavaliers staving off elimination, winning Game 4. They are sending the series back to sunny California.
And ABC's TJ Holmes, who's been covering the finals, he considers this a very tough assignment. He has the highlights now from Cleveland. Hey, TJ.
Hey, good morning, gang. Look, nobody wanted to take this assignment, so, hey, somebody's got to do it. But last night, did y'all see this? After one quarter, the Cavaliers were on pace to score 200 points in that game last night. They weren't just hot. They were the hottest we've ever seen in NBA Finals history. That's what it took to beat the Warriors. So we saw a lot of scoring, but we also saw a little bit of pushing, a little shoving, and a little jawing last night.
Cleveland is still alive.
It ain't over yet.
As Golden State's quest for playoff perfection comes to an end tonight.
LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers denied the Golden State Warriors a chance at wrapping up a championship and a perfect playoff record Friday night.
Hits a three-pointer.
Between Kyrie Irving's 40 points
Irving for three.
And LeBron James alley-oop to himself.
Pass to himself, and he throws it down. He went up in the air and had nowhere to go.
The Cavs had plenty of highlights. in what was a chippy,
blocked by Love.
testy,
Thompson hit hard, and a hard foul by Draymond Green.
in-your-face kind of contest.
A rugby scrum has broken out.
For the Cavs, it was simple. Win or the season is over, and they came out firing. 49 points in the first quarter, 86 points in the half, both NBA Finals records. They also set the record for three-pointers made in an NBA playoff game.
Corner three.
And LeBron James set the record for the most triple-doubles in NBA Finals history.
You know, when you're down 3-0 and you're fighting and you're trying to get a win, you do whatever it takes.
The Cavs and the Warriors got in each other's faces throughout the game.
James and Durant jawing at each other.
Including this chat between LeBron and Kevin Durant, which resulted in both getting technical fouls.
Durant drives and
Durant
finishes.
again lit up the Cavaliers with 35 points, but Stephen Curry was a bit off his game and finished with just 14 points.
Scoop layup.
It was one of those nights where we just didn't have anything clicking.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again.
With memories of last year's comeback lingering, the series is now headed back to Golden State.
One game, and it's gonna be it's gonna be even tougher in Game 5. But we look forward to the challenge.
So it seemed impossible, right? They were down 3-0. No team in NBA playoff history has ever come back from that. But now, guys, look at this bigger picture. They're down 3-1, the exact spot they were last year when they came back and won the championship. And the popular refrain here, even when they were down 3-0, has been Cavs in 7. So they were chanting that pretty loudly here last night at the Q.